touch anything ever.
How's your back?
It's not great. Well, that's why I put it in the back.
Where your best foot forward. Put your best foot forward. You ready?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm gonna get a little gloss on this old stick. I'm gonna get some lip gloss on your stick.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're ready.
It's the cat. Can you see the cat in the shot?
Yeah, I think he's kind of behind. We're recording.
All right. We're going to start this episode of Cool and Unusual Punishment with some words of wisdom from an Instagram user who shall remain anonymous. Do you desire to sail to the ends of the earth and back? Step 1. Choose the vessel partner that meets your goals and can handle your journey through all kinds of storms. A strong but not independent vessel because it cannot sail on its own for long. Step 2. Prepare yourself by first knowing yourself and your ship partner and lay out your course. Step 3, cast away and learn to accept that calm and rough weather are a natural part of your journey together. Step 4 is the most important to embrace. Once you've set sail, know that you cannot make changes to the ship you've chosen, just yourself. The ship is designed to do its part, and the sailor, you, is meant to do yours. If you are not happy with what ship partner you choose, then do not blame it. Shorten the journey and take a break from sailing or monkey branch. Final step. Now go enjoy your journey. Ahoy, mate. Hashtag sail, hashtag mates, hashtag choose wisely, hashtag goals, hashtag calm seas, hashtag rough seas, hashtag captain, hashtag the journey, hashtag acceptance. There is one comment on it that says nice with a diamond.
Cheers.
Cheers. Did you learn something from that?
So in case, I mean, it might not be clear because there's a lot of subtlety to that. It's actually talking about relationships. It's actually a metaphor.
Yeah. If you followed that advice, if we followed that advice, we'd both be very sad and with other people. Lean in.
Adjust it so it's more straight on. I mean, you can lower. I don't want you to have to. Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
This is Cool and Unusual Punishment.
Yes, it is.
We're on episode 3.
Episode 3.
We're settling into some good times together.
We got a good rhythm going.
It's like a ship partner.
Right. We've had, it's been pretty smooth seas so far. Pretty calm seas. And you know what they say, red sky before dawn.
Mow the lawn.
That's right.
It's red sky at morning, sailor's warning. Red sky at night, sailor's delight.
Beer before liquor.
Never
It makes you
sick.
quicker when you run from the police.
Beer before liquor, the sex is quicker. Liquor before beer.
It takes a year. So we're doing a podcast. I'm a little flustered because I spent like an hour and a half setting up.
Yeah.
This rig. We have 3 microphones, a camera, my computer I dragged over so that we could live stream.
Yeah.
And the one thing I haven't been thinking about for the last hour and a half is my story and what we're actually supposed to be doing here. I do have it. Don't worry about it.
But you.
Not in podcast mode yet.
You don't think it's going to be very good.
No, I don't expect
go first.
it. No.
Do you want to go first or?
Well, there's one thing I want to talk about, and it's we were supposed to go to a haunted house last weekend.
Yeah.
And we had made promises that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's what this episode would be about, and we should probably give an update and say that that didn't happen,
Yeah.
and we didn't go to that haunted house.
Because you don't like them, number one.
I don't respect them. I mean, also I don't like them, but it wasn't. We did not go because like I got cold feet.
I mean, it was maybe a one. I thought you did not like haunted houses. I thought you didn't like them. You were like, I'm not sure if I like to be scared. Can I
Well,
have that? Thank you.
I wanted to be scared in a historical, I wanted.
What's happening?
I sound tinny.
Oh,
I sound like a tinny man.
it's because you have no heart.
It's possible. We'll roll the dice.
Okay.
Um,
Do I sound warm and inviting?
yeah, you sound like a living room fire. You know that in a fireplace, not a living room fire. Anyway, the point is, I'm not a coward, and that's not the reason we didn't go. But I told you I would tell a substitute story of a haunted house I did go to.
Yes.
When I was about 14, maybe, some friends had told me to invite me to come to this haunted house in the area. It's called Nightmare.
Were these friends that I know?
I don't think you know them personally. One of them was a friend of the show, Desi.
Okay.
She's a friend of this show and probably the longest listener of Wisconsin Bound. I mean, God bless. Since the real early episodes.
Yeah.
A friend of mine since high school. She's pretty consistent listener of the podcast, and she was one of them actually who invited me to this haunted house, and it was supposed to be when we were 14 in junior high. It was described to me as this like this is like people can't handle. This is like the scariest thing ever. Okay, it's very intense, and I agreed to go to that, and so it was somewhere in Wisconsin, but it was like a drive.
Ladysmith.
Is that where it is?
I don't know.
That sounds about right. It was something. Anyway, we went there and it was cold. It was like an October night, and you had to like line up, and you kind of get like cattle. You feel like livestock being like pushed through a pen, in the line, because you're in this chain link kind of prison of human flesh that they're corralling into this building.
That's how many people were at this?
I don't know if it was a lot of people or if just the queue that they had formed was small enough that everyone was kind of shoulder to shoulder. But we got into the building, and you first get into this like staging area, and you're made to line up, and this guy comes out who he looks and talks like a drill instructor. He's a big guy, and he looks tough and mean, and he's got a water pail, like a bucket of chewed gum, and he's like yelling at us. Like, that the bucket is because if you have gum, you fucking spit that gum out right now. You take the gum and you spit it in this bucket. He wasn't swearing for reasons that will become obvious why in a bit. But he's being very mean about it. He's really kind of yelling at us. We haven't really done anything yet. And he's kind of like.
Did you have gum?
No, but he's doing that, and then he's.
You had a cigarette.
Yeah, I put the blunt out, and he's being very. He's giving us the rules as to like this. When this door opens, you're gonna run through it. You're not gonna walk. You're not gonna dilly dally. You're gonna haul ass through this door. All right, and you're gonna go from room to room, and you're not gonna stop. And he's being. It's like
The cat doesn't like you talking like that.
We just walked in, and we're children. We're literally children, and he's like yelling at us.
Who was the one? Was Desi? Who was the one who was like, "This is awesome. I've been to it before."
I don't remember, and I don't know why whoever pitched it to me didn't give me the punchline, which we'll get to. Like,
yeah.
So the door opens and you go through, and what you're going through is like a series of vignettes. Every room is another kind of scary thing, but they're like real life things. Like one room was like gang violence, and then one room was like drug use, and then there was the one room I remember was a teenager in his bedroom shooting himself. And the special effects, to their credit, was like there was a blood pack that shot brains all over the wall. You know, like it wasn't spooky ghosts. It was like real life scary things. You know.
Was there a teen pregnancy abortion one?
I would not doubt it. That would be in line with the stuff we were seeing. And then it took a turn where you're going through all these rooms, and then suddenly you're in a like red room with flames and like hookers dancing in cages, and it's clear that you're in hell. You've now descended into hell.
There were women dancing in cages?
Probably with more clothes, but like there were people in cages, I remember, and like screams, and I remember thinking, well, I'm not really being scared, and but there's somebody's telling me, like somebody's teaching me a lesson is what's happening.
Yeah.
And at the end, we finally get through the whole thing, and you come out the other end on this big room of the warehouse, and it's all well lit, and there's cookies and juice or whatever. You survived. You made it through. And when you come out, somebody gives you a pamphlet, and it was like scared of this. This is why you need Jesus Christ. And I was like, it's.
You didn't know until that moment?
No, not until that moment. Like that's it. I should have seen it coming. And it really makes me mad the way every Bible study focused thing always does that. Like, if you were so proud of your message, like why does it always backload it with like, oh man, are you coming to this party for Jesus Christ? Like,
yeah.
Or it's gonna be a lock-in. We're gonna stay up all night for Jesus Christ. It's like, stop being ashamed of him if you're so. Why did you not put this in the title of, like, Nightmare? Featuring the Lord and Savior. Like, why did they try to sneak it in on the back?
And to make it a haunted house thing? Well, you know what that reminds me of? What was the name of the popular Passion of the Christ?
Yes.
I think, I don't remember if I told you this, but when I was working at the health insurance company, this reminds me of that. Well, first, was everybody... like bummed out like you were at the end?
I don't remember. I guess the people I was with must have known. And I didn't see anybody else throwing their arms up going like, oh, come on!
Yeah.
Jesus? Jesus!
Okay. Well, okay, so I was working at the insurance company. There was this girl I was working with named Desi. Oh my god, her name was Desi. Interesting. And she, like, says to me one day, hey, do you want to go see that Passion of the Christ movie for free? And so I was working 2 jobs then because I was not getting paid anything when I first started at the insurance company. So I'd be like, I would work 8 to 5 at the insurance company and then work 5:30 to close at Kohl's. So it was a shitty time. So I didn't have a whole bunch of money. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll go. So she was like, okay, well, we'll go after work on this day, and then we'll go over, and it was at this designated date and time. And I didn't really get what it was all about, like why it was for free and all that stuff. And so we get there, and like she has these special tickets, and we go in, and I realize that the whole theater's been reserved. And this guy, the pastor of Crossroads, I think it's Crossroads Church, gets up like before the movie starts, and he's like, I want to thank everybody for being willing to come today. You've been identified from your friends as lost sheep.
Oh.
And we're hoping that this movie will, wake you up to Christ and stuff like that. And we got pamphlets.
Was the girl who invited you, was she there, or did you go through the door and she like were your sponsors with you, or was it just you and the other lost sheep?
She was with me. So like I met her there. We drove after work, and I think it was like a 6 o'clock or something like that showing, or maybe it was on a Saturday, something like that. I seem to remember meeting her somewhere, and we drove together. And we just had these special free comped tickets, but it didn't say anything special on them. And I like
Lost sheep discount.
looked at her, like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, it definitely feels like whether or not you like the movie or go on to be saved, it seems like, well, that friendship's probably over, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I got promoted shortly after that. And it was like, she had this, her life was way more stupid than mine at the time. She had like 3 kids by 3 different dads. Her current boyfriend, husband, whatever, like had kids with different people. He was like cheating on her, and she was upset about it, would bitch about it, but then never do anything. And I'm like, why are you I'm a single, unmarried woman who just comes to work with
So
my
lost.
eating disorder.
So lost.
Like, why are you attacking me? You're the one who's got like kids with all these different guys, and then your husband or whatever is cheating on you, and like works for a cable company and is traveling all the time. And so anyway, yeah, it was very awkward after that. And like I went to work and told everybody. I was like, yeah, I'm like a lost sheep, you
Don't
know.
go to any movies with this girl.
And also, it's just a really uncomfortably long movie, and it's like, yeah, I fucking get it, you know? I get it. And I like the idea of Jesus, anyway, whether or not, you know, any of the rest of it's correct, you know? And it's like, I feel bad, this guy, you know? Didn't even get to have children.
By the way, realize that now that there's a video here, I can do camera takes. When my Jewish fiance says she has no problem with Jesus, I can go. Who are you rooting for in that movie, by the way?
I mean, you know, people can be a little misguided with their savior identification. Kitty, he's pacing for food. I don't know if anybody can see him, but he's such a big boy.
God, you're so quiet on this mic.
I know, that's weird.
Well, should I do my story first? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if
'cause
there's
I'm-
a lot of meat on these bones.
There's a ton of meat
Okay.
on my bones, and this is a story. I won't say anything else about it because it's your turn.
Well, I want to start with a very
A
short,
poem.
a very short bio, and it's about a man named Nicholas Ackelmaid. He was a British tail gunner in the Royal Air Force during World War II.
What does that mean?
It means he was in World War II,
Mm-hmm.
and he would fly in Avro Lancaster Mark II bombers, which are bombers that would, they're the largest of the bomber planes that the Royal Air Force used during the World War II, and they would fly night missions. And because they flew these huge bombers at night, the crew of yes.
Can people, I just wanted to know really quick, can people ask us questions? Is there a stream where I can check and see is there people?
Yeah, there's a live chat right here.
Oh, it's on your thing. Okay.
I can put over here if it pops up if you see it. I mean,
Okay, I'll watch.
okay.
And nobody might even be watching this.
5 people are watching it.
Oh, okay, so if you put something,
If you
interrupt
chat-
us.
If you type something into the chat on YouTube, we'll be able to see it.
You probably have to have a YouTube account for such things.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube is owned by Google. Anyway, everybody has it. It doesn't matter.
Rear end, rear
A rear
gunner.
end. He's a tight end.
Yeah.
So he's a rear gunner in World War II, and they would fly these huge bombers at night. Their crew, they called their bomber and their crew, they called it the Werewolf. That's what they christened their ship. So in March of 1944, the crew was on a bombing mission over Berlin. But on their way back to England, the bomber caught on fire after being hit by machine gun fire. The order came from the Werewolf's pilot to abandon the crippled bomber, but Ackelmaid wasn't wearing his parachute because he was, as a rear gunner, he can't fit. I don't know if you ever read Catch-22.
Yeah.
It's he can't fit into the cockpit or whatever of the tail gunner with his parachute on. So when he gets this call to abandon ship, he doesn't have his parachute on, so he goes looking for it. And he pulls the parachute out, and it's on fire. So he's faced with a decision. either burn to death inside this plane or jump out. So he jumps out of the plane at 30,000 feet.
What?
Quote, "I had no doubts at all. This was the end of the line." He was doing an interview years later about it.
Oh, so he lived.
Quote,
You just gave it away.
"The question was whether to stay in the plane and fry or jump to my death. I decided to jump and make it a quick, clean end of things. I backed out of the turret and somersaulted away." So 3 hours later, Echo Maid wakes up in the snow. He's in a forest, but he looks up and he sees the way he described it in his interview. He looks up and he sees stars because he's looking at the hole in the trees that he made on his way down. He looks up, he sees the stars. He has some cuts and some burns and a twisted ankle, but other than that, he's okay.
No way, not a broken bone?
So he wakes up, he sees the stars, and he lights a cigarette. He would later describe the fall as a pleasant experience. Anyway.
Well, how does he know? He was asleep.
So, the reason I tell that story is because there is a site called Free Fallers, where it is sort of the fascination and the research and the it's this kind of site about falling
In love.
just free falling without a parachute.
It's about Tom Petty.
Into a relationship. It's about falling and surviving. There's a whole site dedicated to this, and it goes on about people who survived and about cats who have no terminal velocity because they're, or ants. Ants are the other ones. I was trying to find a list of animals that don't have terminal velocity.
What's terminal velocity?
Terminal velocity is the speed, the maximum speed you reach when you're falling, when you're free falling. You will the ratio between your weight and air resistance and gravity will, like a human being, it's like 120 miles per hour, or maybe it's the same for all animals. I don't know how gravity works.
The cats don't
The
have
point
it.
is, it maxes out, and for most people, terminal velocity is fatal, of course.
Yeah.
But with cats, cats are very good at, at landing and not getting hurt. So cats famously don't die, tend to not die when they fall from like terminal velocity. The same with animals small enough that their weight is displaced by the air. They don't die from falling. That's not what I want to tell you. I want to tell you how to survive. I want to give you some tips on how to survive free fall.
Okay. Empty your pockets of change.
Can't wait. Evacuate your bowels.
Remove your eyeglasses.
Yeah. So this is a hypothetical, in case it ever happens. You're flying Delta. You got your neck pillow. You're drifting off to a Dane Cook movie. Suddenly the fuselage is on fire. 35,000 feet up in the air, and the plane is on fire. And you exit the aircraft, you're sucked out, and you find yourself falling freely through the air with no parachute. So first of all, you have to understand that you're going to immediately black out. Because you're 30,000 feet up and you're a mile higher than the top of Everest. There is no air, so you're going to take a few breaths and you're going to black out.
Do you get to be in the Mile High Club? If you survive?
Yeah, that's part of cutting weight is you have to ejaculate.
That was taking it too far.
Anyway, so this is according to this article, you have to look at this as a good thing, because this is a terrifying thing that's happening to you,
Okay.
and it's better to not be conscious for it. So you're gonna get a brief, break from the chaos and the fear. You're gonna wake back up around 15,000 feet, and at this point, you're gonna have about a minute before you hit the ground. So this is where you have to focus, and you have to start making plans as to how you're going to land. And this is assuming there's no parachutes floating nearby, or if there's a large sheet of tin, anything that displaces air, you want to ride that. You want to ride that down like a big surfboard. so that's going to slow your descent. But assuming those are not available, you're going to start looking for things to land on. Namely, trees are a good thing. You want trees with excurrent growth patterns, that is a large central trunk with branches that come off perpendicularly. Evergreens are good. Things that have delicate branches on the top and kind of will pad your descent as you go through it.
Mm-hmm.
The article points out that the redwood.
Hold on, I'm just looking.
The redwood is might look attractive because it's so tall, but the redwood's bottommost branches are actually 50 feet above the ground. So that's actually not a safe tree to go for because you could fall from the bottommost branch and then still die.
Well, certainly when this is all occurring to you, your mindset is absolutely one of thinking, I need to right now decide which kind of tree I'm going to land in. I have a choice here because certainly...
You do, and that's why I'm reading this to you.
Well,
because
how do
you're
you
going
have
to
a
become this kind of
choice?
person.
Like, if you're falling, it's going to be wherever you're falling. It could be a farm, it could be a field, it could be the ocean.
Listen, so...
Okay, well,
By
fine.
tilting forward and putting your hands at your side, you can modify your pitch and make progress not just vertically, but horizontally as well. As you go down 15,000 feet, you can also go sideways 2/3 of that distance. That's 2 miles. So you actually have a lot of choice as to where you land. And if your mind's in the right place, you can actually make a lot of these choices, what trees to hit.
So put your arms at your side.
It's like the Rocketeer.
Okay, that's all I gotta say.
Okay. Snow, of course, is good to look for. Deep snow is good. So, the other thing I wanted to point out, because you're gonna, assuming no trees, no snow, worst case scenario, you have an open field of ground. You want to try and hit the ground in what parachuters call the 5-point landing. Since you're going to be hitting the ground at 120 miles an hour, what you want to do is hit 5 points of your body on the ground separately. That is your feet, your calf, your thighs, your buttocks, and then your shoulders. That way, 120 miles per hour is spread out over 5 parts of your body, which is about 25 miles per hour per part of your body, which is actually very survivable. The article also goes on to say that there's a distance of like 20 or 30 feet above the ground where most falls are fatal from. After 20 or 30 feet, most falls tend to be fatal. And that's actually a good thing because people who fall from 30 feet up don't have a full minute to plan their landing the way you do, falling from 30,000 feet.
I mean, this guy you talked about survived doing none of these things.
That's true, and it also brings him up in this article to point out that he survived, but also that he's a disappointment and you should not follow his advice because he jumped out of the plane and accepted death, and it was very peaceful, and I just kind of, I just waited for my death to come. And like, you don't want to do that. You can't be thinking if you're giving yourself up to God already.
Okay.
So don't do that. You have to be a quick thinker, and you have to be actively, aggressively looking for your landing spot, and you want to fall in a way that spreads it out across your whole body.
Like those wavy things when there's a big sale at the car dealership.
Yeah, just like that. Imagine, running into that at 120 miles per hour.
How did you think to do that?
I came across this a long time ago, and I don't know what the original reason was, but I remember reading this article, and that's how I learned about that tail gunner, who I remember his name. He always been like a hero of mine. Just this guy who like woke up and like got a light cigarette, so cool. But the original article was it's just a very matter of fact, straightforward advice column on how to survive free fall.
I mean, it kind of is comforting to think about, right?
Yeah.
Although, okay, there's this article. Who has successfully done that based on these tips?
I don't know if anybody's successfully done it based on these tips, but there is a list of people who have survived free fall. And I also don't know, maybe people aren't free falling as much these days, but all the survivors were from World War II, like every one of them.
Yeah, and most of them are gone now.
Also, it points out that when you fall from 30 feet, you don't bounce when you hit the ground. When you fall from 30,000 feet, like you are going to end up a good measured distance away from the crater you form. Like you're
Yeah.
going to hit the ground and bounce. So you have to be ready for that.
Okay. Good thing I got 4 pages here.
We're at half an hour.
Oh,
With that banter at the start, filled my obligation.
we're gonna talk about somebody. Okay, let me see if you can guess. Oh boy, I'm feeling pretty good right now. I ate lunch at like 10:30 this morning. Here I am. It's an architect. Architect, say a name.
Art Vandelay.
A real one.
The Guggenheim. Mr. Guggenheim. Dr.
Leo Marvin. No. Okay, so you don't know any architects. That's fine. You were playing the game. Can I have that when you're done?
Was Guggenheim? Oh, I guess Guggenheim probably wasn't the architect, huh? It's probably the artist they dedicated the.
Well, I don't know that for sure, but I've never heard anybody talk about Guggenheim.
I guess when
Guggenheim,
this is
the
like an art
architect.
gallery, right?
Yeah.
I guess they don't name it after the architect. Reader or something. The guy in the Ayn Rand book. He's such a good architect. He's like better than humanity.
I mean, don't even get me started on that shit. I just okay.
Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yeah.
Maybe I was leaving that off because I knew what your story was about.
But I don't know if you do know what my story's about.
It's about Frank Lloyd Wright.
Frank Lloyd Wright. I did this for Tell Me Something Weird, like one of the very first episodes, but I have found out a whole bunch. I know. It's like bringing up an old relationship. But I have found out so much more stuff this time around that this story is lit like a cigarette. Okay? So you ready to hear about this? It's nuts. It's nuts.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Also, I don't want to give you further mic instructions because you're doing fine.
What?
No, you're doing fine, but the mic for the live stream is that one.
Uh-huh.
It is set to record kind of, omnidirectional, so maybe they can hear us fine, but
So
I don't know a better
how can I
way
both
until
focus,
we have one on the table.
How can I both focus on this mic and
I
that
don't know.
one?
I don't know.
So why are you telling me? What did you do different when you were talking?
I didn't do anything.
So you're just
I'm
kind
just
of
reminding
being a
you of
man.
what the setup is. I'm just mansplaining
Okay.
audio.
You're mansplaining audio to me, although you didn't do anything different. It's important for me to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Not long after being commissioned by businessman and Oak Park, Illinois neighbor Edwin Cheney to design a house in 1903, Frank Lloyd Wright began to covet Cheney's wife.
Okay.
Frank Lloyd Wright was married with 6 children of his own, but he fell in love with Mrs. Cheney, and the pair eventually ran off to Europe together. While the Cheneys got divorced, Catherine Wright was like, sorry, no, I'm not getting divorced from you.
This was a guy who hired him.
Yeah, so Frank Lloyd Wright got commissioned to do this home in Oak Park, Illinois.
And he's like, I could do some work on that wife too while I'm at it.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of her angles.
Angles? Angles.
She's got a hell of a vanishing point, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay. So, he decides, hey, I need to find a hideaway for me and my mistress, Frank Lloyd Wright.
So wait, is Frank Lloyd's? Do I call him Frank Lloyd or Lloyd Wright?
I wish you could go and open that window more for the cat. He needs it. Yeah, I would call him, I think everybody calls him Frank Lloyd Wright. Oh, you're a hero. He just needs it. How many more nice days is he gonna get? I know you're back. So you call him Frank Lloyd Wright.
My back. I'm asking. So he ran away to
Europe.
Europe with the mistress. Was the wife in tow and the 6 children?
No, they just
Okay.
went. No. She was like, I'm not going to divorce you. Probably because she was like, I already know you're going to be fucking famous and I'm not going to divorce you. So, they want to find a place that they can call their own, he and the mistress. So he decides that he's going to build a residence and studio in 1911.
You know, it's probably got to be exhausting to be with Frank Lloyd Wright when we're here in Europe. We gotta find like an apartment. And he's like, wait.
Well,
I have sketches.
Well-
No, let's just rent we can just get a room. No.
Well,
No.
they go to Europe, but then they come back, and that's when he
Oh, okay.
decides.
Okay.
Because he's like, well, I do have these 6 kids and this wife, so at some point I gotta come back.
Right.
But we need to have our own space away from that, because Frank Lloyd Wright lived in Illinois at the time. So they decided that they're going to, in 1911, go to Spring Green, Wisconsin. And that's where he decides he's going to build an estate called Taliesin, which is...
It's French for cheating on your wife.
It's in honor of the Welsh bard.
That was his D&D character.
Can I have...
I'm doing so many unearned camera takes.
I know, I'm not doing any. That's because I'm
Let's
a
name it after
professional.
my Welsh bard character. Yes.
You gotta get on stage a few more times in a week, then you wouldn't be hamming it up so much. Oh no! Oh. I'm sorry. Oh, are we gonna have a fight on the air?
Go ahead, yeah.
Are we gonna have a fight on the air?
Go ahead.
I love you. So, Taliesin is this. Anybody who loves Frank Lloyd Wright, anybody who has been to House on the Rock is most certainly familiar with Taliesin because House on the Rock is in Spring Green, and Taliesin is just a stone's throw away from it. And it's a big, beautiful estate, which I've never toured, but I've always wanted to tour. So if you're a fan of Frank Lloyd Wright, you most certainly know Taliesin. It's like...
This is the house that's over like a river.
I'm sure there's water involved because a lot of them are by water, and he's got like a studio in which I think people can still go to school there. I forget the name of it. I think I toured, one time I toured, they did the cheap tour and toured the like school, but not the, I couldn't afford to do Taliesin, so, but when he did this and decided to build this, the press called it the Love Cottage and the Castle of Love.
Right.
Local residents were pissed that this was happening. The superintendent of Iowa County Schools told a reporter, "The scandal is bound to have a demoralizing effect on the school children of the community. It is an outrage to allow young men and women and boys and girls to grow up in the belief that a man and woman can go and disregard the marriage bonds." When sharp tongues, disapproving looks, and even threats of tarring and feathering failed to drive the couple from Spring Green, townspeople called upon the local sheriff to arrest Frank Lloyd Wright. So, Frank Lloyd Wright doesn't give a crap about this. He says 2 women were necessary for a man of artistic mind, one to be the mother of his children and the other to be his mental companion, his inspiration, and his soulmate, he told one reporter. To another he said, laws and rules are made for the average. The ordinary man can't live.
That sounds like the statement of a man who made the mistake of not having his mental companion and
Be his wife?
Yeah, also be the mother of his children.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and like
my soulmate. She's like my mental and creative equal, and also I have this vessel for producing children.
Right, and like, sorry, but somebody who in, like, 1903, who is, like, oh, look at him trying to get down. Somebody who's, like, pumped out 6 children in the early 1900s is probably not going to have the same mystical, artistic mystique.
Right.
It's probably like, I am a...
You're saying Frank Lloyd Wright doesn't like the angles he sees when he looks at his wife. He doesn't.
Right,
I
it's
can't
like,
build a house around
what
this.
What a dumpy woman. I got her pregnant 6 times. She they managed, all the children managed to live. She looks like she's been rode hard and left in the sun.
Yeah. You think you would be into the idea of building a house with, like, every room of the 6, each of the 6 children's rooms would be a different fucking, one would be inside out, and the room would be outside of the room that it's in, and fucking people would, I don't know what an architect does, but I assume this would be like, that's a lot of rooms to build, and he would be very into that.
Yeah, I can see that now. Like, the more children I have, the more opportunity I can do for building rooms. But he didn't care about
he
that.
wants a fuck palace.
So he says
that was one of the nicknames, right? The fuck palace? That's what they called it?
Yeah. The ordinary man cannot live without rules to guide his conduct. It is infinitely more difficult to live without rules, but that is what the really honest, sincere, thinking man is compelled to do. So, you're probably wondering, why am I telling this story, right? Because so far, this is like an interesting story.
Because you love architecture and adultery.
That's kind of rude. So, on the afternoon of August 15th...
Nicholas Acclimate didn't cheat on his wife on the way down, would he?
Well, this story doesn't have a happy ending, so... On the afternoon of August 15th, 1914, Wright was in Chicago working on the design of Midway Gardens, and his mistress and her 2 children, 8-year-old Martha and 12-year-old John, sat down for lunch.
The mistress had children, too.
She had her own children, what she brought with her.
And he was okay with that.
He abandoned his own children.
Right, he has...
Look at this cat. Can anybody see this? I love this.
Right, give it a minute and move around, because it's almost surely fucking up the mics.
Oh, hi.
Hey, live streamers.
He's a boopy. Boop your nose. So, yeah, she brought her own kids with, but he abandoned his children and his wife, and they were in Illinois. So they sat down for lunch at Taliesin. And inside the main dining room at the other end of a 25-foot long passageway, Wright's draftsmen and laborers also gathered, around a table to be served lunch. The people serving lunch was this Barbados native, Julian Carlton, a handyman and servant who had spent the summer waiting tables and performing housework at Taliesin, and it was his wife Gertrude who did most of the cooking. Is he messing it up? He's just a solid boy. It doesn't matter if he messes it up. He's so good. So the workers are eating their soup inside the dining room, and there was a draftsman named Herbert Fritz, and they noticed something weird. They said, "We heard a swish as though water was being thrown through the screen door. Then we saw some fluid coming under the door. It looked like dishwater. It spread out all over the floor," he recalls. Having just served soup to Wright's mistress and her children, Carlton told his wife to leave. Then he comes back, and he has a hatchet, and he splits the mistress's head open in front of her children with a hatchet.
Who does this?
The cook's husband. His name is Carlton. Then, while the children are watching this and doing whatever, he proceeds to do the same thing to them and murders them with a hatchet to the head. And then he douses the floors with gasoline and he sets the whole house on fire. And the dining room burst into flames, the doors were slammed shut and locked. With his clothes burning and hair afire, Fritz, who was one of the workers that I had mentioned who had saw the liquid, he jumps out a window next to where he was seated and he rolls down the hillside to put out the flames on him. As Fritz looked back, he saw Taliesin in flames, and he saw Carlton wielding his hatchet against his co-workers who had broken through the barricaded door or tried to escape through a window to the courtyard. So these people are trying to get out of this burning house, and this guy comes.
Just hatcheting away.
Yeah. Although badly burned and wounded, both 35-year-old master carpenter Billy Weston, who had built Taliesin, and a landscape gardener David Lindblom managed to escape with Fritz. They hurried a half-mile to the nearest house with a phone call for help. The townspeople who rushed to the scene found the bodies of the mistress, her 2 children, 2 workers, and a 13-year-old boy. Lindblom, one of the survivors, eventually died from his burns. So 7 people died total and only 2 survived. So hours after this happens, Carlton, the guy who had the hatchet, is discovered barely conscious inside the basement furnace of the house. He swallowed muriatic acid, which is like a poison, in hopes of killing himself after he did this, because I suppose it's hard to hatchet yourself to death. Like, what do I got around here? Oh, this muriatic acid will do. So he never gives a motive for why he does this, and he dies from starvation in a jail in Dodgeville, Wisconsin, 7 weeks later.
So he's found, he gets arrested, and then,
Yes.
and then just starves?
Yeah, like he refuses to eat. Though his wife said he had become increasingly paranoid in the weeks prior to the attack, even keeping a hatchet in a bag next to his bed. So
He definitely has a favorite weapon.
yeah. So there was a person who wrote this biography called Frank Lloyd Wright, and a witness recalls Lindblom, one of the survivors, having said of Carlton, if anyone around there ever did him any dirt, he would send him to hell in a minute. There were rumors of workers possibly directing racial slurs at him, and of a dispute with a few days earlier about saddling a horse. One of Taliesin's surviving workers said that the mistress had told the Carltons that they were going to be fired. The killer's wife confirmed that they were due to take a train back to Chicago that night. So he was maybe pissed that they were getting fired. So even after tragedy struck, the public remained fixated on the relationship between Wright and this woman. Borthwick is her last name. In the reports on the murders, neighbors still refer to Taliesin as a love cottage.
Weird choice. Like, you think you might...
The Ogden Standard even reported that some neighbors pointed, quote, to the tragic ruin of the Kingdom of Love as the strongest argument that the avenging angel still flies. So, well, look at this.
Cheat on your wife, here's what happens.
Yeah.
Other people die. Oh, I guess the mistress died.
The mistress died and her children and most of the workers. So this happens in Taliesin, as you recall, me mentioning is a place you can go and tour now. So you're thinking, well, there was this huge fire, what happened? So he rebuilds it because most of it was destroyed in the fire. By the end of 1914, the residential wing was rebuilt, and by the end of the year, he had proclaimed love for another woman who had penned him a condolence letter. That reminds me of like when somebody's in jail and gets a letter from somebody, and you're just like, yeah, okay. They got married in 1923 after Catherine finally agreed to a divorce. Then, in 1925, the estate burns to the ground again from faulty wiring. He rebuilds Taliesin again, and now it's a National Historic Landmark. So, memories of the tragedy are still to linger today. In the wake of the attack, firefighters took the dying and badly burned victims to a cottage on the property called Tan Yediri. It is in and around this cottage where Martha, that's the mistress's first name, spirit has been reported over the years. She's usually dressed in a long white gown, and while she's a peaceful presence, she's obviously restless and lost. It is also said
obviously restless and lost.
Yeah, it is also
and
said that the doors and windows open and close by themselves within the cottage, and lights sometimes turn on and off. Witnesses say they often close the place for the night, only to return the following day to find everything wide open. So there's been some hauntings, and there is a song titled Mama Borthwick, which Mama was like, I think, a pet name Wright had for Martha. A sketch on the 2016 album Ruminations by Conor Oberst. The story of Martha's death was recounted by Lorelai Gilmore in an episode of The Gilmore Girls called Let the Games Begin. And there's a bunch of books about this too. So
Is Frank Lloyd Wright a bad guy? And I'm just finding out now. Did he go? Where was this in his career?
is there stuff on there?
Desi, she says, you guys sound good.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Desi. Thank you, Desi. Wrong mic.
Get it together. I don't know if you can be the judge of that. I mean, I think most artists are to some degree temperamental and difficult people. And, I mean, he had a very specific kind of architecture. Like, the thing I did tour, you know, nothing is, like, terribly comfortable because he also dictated the kind of furniture. It was these chairs with these super tall backs on them. But he liked to incorporate nature into a lot of stuff, and aesthetically, his stuff looks very cool. I don't know if I think it's the most comfortable, like if you really want to live in a house like that.
It's not like a galaxy bed, which you can get for $3,400, and it has everything you could need. You don't ever have to leave it. You think Frank Lloyd Wright designed it? No, some fucking asshole who thought if you have a room big enough. It looks great. It's a couch and a bed and a coffee table and a nightstand
And
and
does
a
it
record
have
player.
Does it have a
and
refrigerator?
I bet it does. I would bet that.
And
it
the
does.
bathroom? Because otherwise, it's not everything you need.
I mean, a couple links of PVC pipe and
Yeah, that's the man's perspective.
that's true. Like I'm.
You can do it.
There's a thing. There's a female.
Yeah, it's.
It looks like a lacrosse, like or a highlight.
I know.
end
I've
of a-
seen that like ad.
Do you find that offensive because it's like turning you into a man in terms of
No.
how you?
I don't find it offensive. I forget what it's called, but like I also just don't necessarily find it funny anymore. Like I've seen it shared so many times. Like I can conjure up the image of it, but I don't know remember what it's called. But like I don't find it particularly hilarious anymore. It's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, okay, like if like your mom were to share it right now or somebody like that, it'd be like, this is like 5 years ago. Maybe I would have found
I
this.
gotcha. Okay.
It's a dead horse.
So I don't know if you're designing furniture in homes that aren't really comfortable. Like it's easy to understand it as a person years after the fact. Like, oh, he's an artist, and you go and look at this house and like, oh, the angles are. I keep saying angles because I don't know other architecture terms. It's the pitch of the awning and the A-frames. I understand that, but like it's hard to picture if you're Frank Lloyd Wright or whoever he's in love with at the time, and he's like rebuilding the like. Don't worry, babe. Like don't worry. Don't ask what happened the last time this house was standing.
Right.
And don't fire anybody. Just don't.
Yeah.
But it's so him and his lover and their children, like they're presumably living there, and like if they just have a bunch of seats with high backs and all the beds are at weird angles and like no, it's art. Like wouldn't you be like, can we just get a sectional, Frank? Can we just get a sectional?
Probably.
No, it's not. You don't understand. I brought you all the way out here to
Right.
have a house above a waterfall. And,
Yeah.
and you want a futon?
I built this for somebody else, but they got hatcheted to death.
Yeah.
And you sent me a letter. Well, she knew about it because she said he fell in love with her because she sent a condolence letter. So, and I don't even know who her name was because it really wasn't the point. Look at you hamming it up. I don't really know, like, you know, it wasn't quite the point of my story to get into that relationship. But Simon and Garfunkel wrote a song about Frank Lloyd Wright. That's how I know about
Simon and Garfunkel held hands and drove over the cliff.
You do this to me all the time.
That one. That's a ham. That's a ham up all proudly.
How many times have you asked me about fucking
Simon.
Thelma and Louise? versus
Thelma and
Laverne
Louise.
and Shirley.
Thelma and Louise made it on their
Amy
own.
and
They
Lacey.
worked at the bottling plant in Milwaukee, right? And then, except for the end of the sitcom, then they went to like Hollywood. That was Thelma and Louise. Siegfried and Roy, they were the ones with the white tiger, right? And one of them got killed by it.
Okay.
No, those those were the magicians.
Are you thinking of? Are you trying to also make another joke? Dealing with the guys who did the new movie reviews. The one guy.
Tango and Cash, right? One of them, yeah. I mean, one of them died. And
What's the
then
name of the
other
guys who did the movie reviews?
It's Smith and Wesson. Who were the old guys who were in the Muppets and they were up in the balcony to make fun of everything?
Yeah, I don't remember, but that kind of reminds me of the actual movie reviewers.
Sadler and Waldorf. They were the magicians, but one of them doesn't talk,
Oh my god.
and the other one's a libertarian.
Ebert.
Yes.
What's it in Ebert?
Ebert and Gebert. It's
Siskel and
It's a
Ebert.
sub show. This is cool and unusual punishment. For Tell Me Something Weird, you had these running jokes. You had stuff about the Panama Canal and,
Oh yeah.
and other
Well,
shit that I don't know because I didn't listen to enough episodes. But I always thought that the Thelma and Louise bit that I do in real life to you
Yeah.
constantly that'll be a great running joke, and I just ran through every name in the last 3 minutes now.
well, the Panama Canal is not something that was just reserved for Tell Me Something Weird. It just has to do with my having a hard time with geography and figuring out where places are. And so I decided that the Panama Canal, which I don't even know where that's located, was my anchor for everything. And so, that probably
If
will
only
come
there
up.
was some.
If only there was an app for me to help figure out where the Panama Canal
I was gonna say if only there were a country, but I don't know that Panama is a country.
I know that Van
I can't say that for sure because I don't want to get it wrong.
Panama. So anyway, yeah.
Right.
You don't have to feel pressure.
Panama Canal.
oh, we're gonna go. So yeah, we'll figure out this episode of Cool and Unusual Punishment is not sponsored yet by Montucky Cold Snacks. When it is, we can do live streams. And
I mean, I've done 40 camera takes, so just imagine how many times I could be holding your beer up to the camera.
what?
Dizzy says, "Go, girl."
Yeah, it's probably in response to something you were doing bad. So anyway.
Bo and Luke were. The mountain might get them, but the law never will. That's just me describing Dukes of Hazzard. Sorry.
Are you good?
Herbert and Gerbert. I sent them the Herbert and Gerbert comic, and they eventually posted it, and it got nothing. It got no response. But they did it 4 months after the fact. They were like, "We're gonna focus test this and see how the response
It's
is."
a chain.
Fuck you, Herbert or Gerbert.
There's another comment there.
Sunnyside 6, sponsored by Maker's Mark. No, we're drinking Fireball, actually.
Oh, that's my friend Tara. Yeah, Tara. I just started my new job, so I'm not up to the Maker's Mark price point yet.
No,
but in
yeah.
a couple of weeks. And also, Tara.
We're both ambassadors. You're
lifetime.
like a better ambassador. You're like some kind of king.
Well, it's just longer. It's longer standing. But
we
Tara
should
and-
be drinking Maker's Mark.
yes,
We both
Tara-
have caskets.
Well, and
Not
you
caskets. Barrels. Whiskey caskets.
Yes, and you could have bought us some, but Tara and Ryan moved away, and maybe 3 years ago, I think Ryan had a bottle of Maker's Mark for me, which he never gave to me, and then they moved away. Even I bought some of their cross stitch supplies, which I'm never gonna learn how to do, but they're under the bed right now. So anyway,
we're getting towards the end of the episode, and I don't want our streamers to leave, and I don't want us to spiral off. So I do have some other things I want to cover.
where are we at time wise? Because I feel like
58 minutes.
Oh, okay. Because I don't want us to go off the rails here. You know what I mean?
Did you know Kenny Loggins had a nudist wedding?
Whoa.
Next.
Loggins and Messina was his first group. Anyway.
No, Loggins and Messina.
No! No! Okay. A fully nudist wedding, everybody in the wedding was nude?
Yeah, probably. The wedding's coming up, and I thought maybe the Kenny Loggins angle would get you. Also, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, and I asked you to save it for the podcast. We were talking about bars in the cities, and we were talking about Lyle's Liquor, and you said, "Oh, that's where I saw Prince." Will you tell me about the time you saw Prince?
Yeah, well, it's not like a hugely long story or anything like that. It also involves an old relationship. But for a brief period of time, I dated this guy in Minneapolis named Jared, who broke up with me because I lived in Eau Claire. That's literally what he told me.
That's fair. If you lived in the cities, you'd be like, oh, boy.
Like, what? Okay. But anyway, he took me to Liquor Lyle's. I don't recall the time frame on this, and like it's a very cool bar, and it was near to where Jared was living at the time, and suddenly there was like this entourage of people, like it was very large entourage of people, and in the center of it was Prince. And he stayed there for like a drink or something like that, and there was no way that anybody was going to there was no way that I was going to like go up and be like...
Did other people... I don't know Prince that well. I mean, a few songs like that's... Is Prince the sort of celebrity that's above... like if Seth Rogen came into the bar, like everyone would swamp him and be like, Seth...
Pam messaged me and said we're already off the rails.
Like, is Prince the kind of person when he comes in, people like make a gap for him, and they're like, you don't just talk to Prince.
Well, first of all, if I were to see Seth Rogen in a bar, I don't even know if I would know who it was.
That's true. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He looks like every other guy you would find at a bar in Minneapolis.
Yeah, like that would make me think anything. But Prince is like a very short. I mean.
And I'm sure he came in hovering, cross-legged, through on the shoulders of his entourage.
No, but like it wasn't like on the Dave Chappelle show where he talks about the time he played basketball with Prince, and like Prince was wearing a frilly shirt and like fancy pants and like kicked his ass at. Oh, it wasn't Dave Chappelle telling the story. It was Charlie Murphy, who's Eddie Murphy's brother, got challenged to play. Okay. Yeah, I guess. And anyway, so no, he was just kind of wearing like not like a frilly shirt or anything.
Okay, I was
like
gonna say, does Prince wear? What does Prince wear in his off time? Because I'm picturing a Prince-like outfit. I guess was he just wearing like a hoodie and like a Slayer T-shirt?
No.
Like, I don't want to attract too much.
He wasn't wearing
hat.
jeans. That's for sure. I think he was wearing like kind of leather, like very fitted pants with like a trench coat and like a long shirt to cover up, his
bulge. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, I bet his pants are measured to fit, like, he has bulge measurements, and every pants kind of fit that.
I mean, I had a memory come up one day that was like, I was guessing that if somebody ever slept with Prince, they would just never sleep with anybody else again.
Yeah, I've heard it said as a joke or maybe semi-serious on other podcasts that Prince is one of those people that transcends sexual orientation. Like Prince and Bowie like are kind of like they probably they just fucked anybody they wanted to, and it was just like they were just this cloud of sexuality that descended on any lucky person. And
Yeah, that would be another person that if Prince had like propositioned me, I would just have been too nervous.
Not like Michael Jordan she just handled it and said no thanks. I'll wait till Tyler comes.
Anyway, so yes.
Sorry, that landed with a dud. All right, we can end it. Yeah.
I can just tell you, we gotta go to a birthday party in a while.
My fiance was propositioned by Michael Jordan, dated Justin Vernon, and is
I did
marrying
not
me.
date Justin Vernon. Don't put
More than
that,
one date?
Like it's like 2 coffees.
That's dating.
Anyway, this has
That's
been.
multiple dates. Propositioned by Michael Jordan, dated Justin Vernon, is marrying this. Yeah.
Size matters. This has been Cool and Unusual Punishment. Thanks for listening.
You can email us. You gotta do your plugs. Don't run out. We gotta do our plugs. We'll edit all this out. Sorry, live streamers. We're very drunk. We'll edit this down to something better in the podcast. You can email. You can email us at mail@coolandunusualpunishment.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. I do comics and other podcasts at TumblesDryComics.com. Jody is in the zeitgeist of Eau Claire and also did storytelling in the cities just recently.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you want to plug?
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't have exact dates. I'm doing some panel at the university talking about female creators in the area, and I'm rewriting a song for the Pablo Center for something, and I don't know anything about that either. So, no, I guess I didn't really have anything to plug. Stay tuned.
Highway to the Pablo Zone.
Well, how are we gonna end this? Stay cool.
Stay unusual.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, live streamers, for hanging out. Sunnyside 6 says, what's up in the OC?
Are we still on the live stream?
Yeah.
What's up in the OC? Did you turn off the recorder at least?
Recorder's off.
What's up in the OC?
Thanks for watching, people who were live streaming. I don't see. This is where I would want. We need Jeffrey here with a, with a camera setup that we can. Because it's just been this one camera, and that's very sad and unenergetic.
Well, I know.
Or we need to buy $1,000 video mixer.
We're getting married.
Okay. Well, yeah,
So what's up in the OC? Like OC, like as in EC?
OC. Oh, EAUC.
Oh,
OC.
what's up in the OC? Well, what's up in the OC, Tara, is that we thought about getting married and having the Lakely involved. They're $4,000. That doesn't include food or drinks. So that's a problem. And there's a zombie crawl tonight. So then we're taking our friends out for one of their birthdays. We can't go anywhere in downtown Eau Claire because it's going to be a bunch of people that have spent like 50 hours on makeup and probably are wearing like little to no clothing. We're like, oh, I'm a hot zombie. So we can't go downtown, so we're going to go to some weird bars. So that's what's going up on that end. I like my cat a lot. We're moving to Chippewa. I've got a new job. But Eau Claire is, doing its own thing still. I don't know if she likes it better than where they're living right now.
Their mic's not turned on.
Okay, so anyway, that's it. Alright, let's turn this live stream off.
Okay. Live stream's turned off. Thanks, guys. Ooh.